challenge of working in so many new guys, particularly guys that weren't even here in spring ball?
Well, it's a challenge, and I think you'll get that from any coach you ask across the country, which that's college football now. Bringing in guys after spring with the transfer portal, but summer rules have changed some, so we can get our hands on them a little more than we used to in the past. So that's helped, but that just makes camp, that much bigger. August camp, training camp, and it's definitely something you want to see. Early on, we talked about that as an offensive staff a couple of days ago. There's a couple guys, in these first 5 to 10 days that you got to make some decisions on and kind of see where they're going to fall in the pecking order. But it's something we put a lot of thought into, with how we practice and how we lay out the schedule, in these first 5 to 10 practices.
You kind of shared the wealth running back wise in the spring. I saw Kiner a week ago. He looks pretty streamlined and all that. Would you like to see an alpha kind of take over that position, or is it going to be by committee?
You would if you have one, and Corey's definitely a guy, that's got some experience in the past. But there are a lot of guys in that room, just like you said, and they all have talent. It's just some of it's unknown to us. So again, they're going to kind of fall in line to, that first 5 to 10 days during camp is going to be huge for them to see if anybody can separate themselves. But if it is by committee, we have no problem with that. Running back's a tough position, a lot of physical, got to have a lot of physicality. And so you need several guys, that you can count on. So hopefully we'll have, 3, 4, 5 guys that we can trust in that room. And I think we do.
You've been coaching for a long time. Have you ever been in a situation where potentially 10 of 11 new starters and probably 20, 25 different names that are possible for those open spots?
No, I don't think I have. This may be the first time. But just going back, to spring ball and over the summer, these guys, as a group overall, they have all worked extremely hard. They're all very coachable and doing exactly what we asked them to do. And obviously that's something you need to see. They're coachable and they're willing. They want to be good. But again, that just goes back to what I was saying early on, man. These first 5 to 10 practices are going to be extremely important. But we got a taste of it, early on with some of those guys, what they can and what they cannot do.
Would you be honest with us if they had a bad summer? If those guys they didn't bring it, nobody.
Probably not. But I'm telling you, this group, it seems like they all got a chip on their shoulder, which they want to be good and work, and so it's going extremely well. But probably not.
What sets Emory Jones apart for you?
Experience. Number one. He's got a ton of experience. He's been around a long time. He's obviously the dual threat, that we're looking for. Coach Satterfield, myself, throughout our careers have had tons of success with dual threat guys. And I even take it a step further. And everybody says they want the dual threat quarterback. We want the triple threat, the guy that can beat you with his arm, with his legs, and then with his mind. And, that was something, Emory learning the offense, learning how we operate and do things as a staff. That's something he spent a lot of time on in the spring and summer. And, he's still learning the playbook and getting comfortable with it, but he's got a great football IQ. And once he becomes, knows it like the back of his hand, I think he will be that triple threat guy.
It seemed like Brady Drogosh impressed a lot of people. What do you want to see out of him in higher ground?
Just he needs reps. Tons of talent there. Again, he's in that mold of the kind of guy that we like. We just need to get him practice reps, reps going against our defense, scrimmage reps, throw him in the fire to see if he can produce in those situations.
This is the wide receiver room that is only returning one starter from a season ago. You bring in guys like Donovan D.
Yeah.
A couple others there, and then you make that transition of Evan. Just talk about that wide receiver room a little bit, and where does Evan stand in that wide receiver room?
Again, just like the rest of the team, hard workers, probably the most coachable receiver group I've ever been around from top to bottom. Like you said, one guy with some experience here, returning starter, and Chris Scott. But if you go right down the list, you know, you look at D. Wiggins, who came over from Louisville. You look at Braden Smith. They understand the offense. They've been in it before, so that's helped them along. And both of them have had very good off seasons. You look at a Donovan Ollie, a guy with experience. We bring in a couple guys. You know, Xavier Henderson from Florida led Florida in catches last year, you know, in the SEC, so a ton of experience there. Aaron Turner, you know, I think he's got 80 or 90 career catches. So they've been a guy that's been guys that have been in the fire before, and they know, you know, what playing in big time football is all about. So they've been nothing but good. And then you look at the guys we had going through spring, some of the younger guys, you know, to a man, every one of them have improved tremendously. You know, look at a Barry Jackson that comes in here. You know, and I think we made mention of it back during spring, from practice 1 to practice 15. He was probably the most improved guy. Well, he's carried that over into summer. Leslie Ando, Sterling Burkhalter is another guy that he's probably improved. You know, he had a good spring, but he's probably improved the most over the course of the summer than anybody in that room. So it was kind of a questionable position for us, you know, when we first got here. But things are trending in the right direction in that room, and those guys have worked their tails off in the off season.
Offensive line is a position that comes into this season with somewhat unknown.
Yeah.
How much do you lean on the running game with those unknowns, and what has their progression been like?
Well, that's part of what we believe in as a staff. You know, to win championships, you know, you got to be able to run the football. And you got to be able to run the football when you want to run it. So it's going to be a huge part. Now, you know, just looking through the depth chart, you know, going back to spring and summer, there's probably 7 or 8 guys that you kind of trust, you know, right now. Obviously, they may need to be a couple more step up. But there's probably a group of 7 right now that we feel pretty good about. And again, camp, first 5, go back to the first 5 to 10 days again, first 5 to 10 practices. That is going to be as a big a time for that group as any. So it's going to be a big training camp for them.
Kind of continuing with that wide receiver room, which of those guys have you seen grow the greatest chemistry with Emory Jones so far?
D. Wiggins, Braden Smith. I think Xavier Henderson has got some chemistry because they've obviously known each other in the past. And then I know I skipped over the question about Evan. Evan's another guy, you know, he hadn't had a lot of snaps at receiver, but he jumped in and he's got some natural talent, natural abilities at that position, you know, without us even coaching him through some of those things. So if we can get him going in camp, you know, you could see him be a guy to come on strong as we continue this thing down the stretch. He's going to be talented at the position. He's going to be good at the position. It's just, you know, kind of the question mark for us right now is what's the arrival date on that going to be? Is it going to be 2 weeks into camp? Is it going to be 2 games into the season? Kind of a wait and see for us on him, but extremely pleased, you know, with his attitude, with his competitiveness, and with just the natural talent he has at that position.
Following up on that, any experience with quarterbacks making the transformation to wide receiver? And in his case, what are some of the things that you need to see to know if he can contribute in games right off the bat?
I think it's really good. You know, going back to my high school coaching days, we used to take, you know, the 2 or 3 quarterback, you know, and make him play wide out, you know, because usually, you know, with the kind of quarterbacks we wanted, they were athletic and they needed to be on the field playing another position. So I think that is an extreme benefit, you know, for him having played that position, because, you know, at quarterback you got to know what everybody's doing. So that's huge, and for him, you know, just there's a lot of things at receive. It's not just going out there and connecting the dots and catching the ball. You know, there's a lot of coaching and a lot of little things that go into being a good wideout. Well, number one, you got to be willing. Well, he's willing. He's bought into that. And, you know, and he said, we've kind of pointed out the ways, hey, here's how you can help us. And so he's bought in 100% into making that transition. You know, now it's just, all right, let's go rep it and do it and watch myself on film and focus in meetings every day so I can learn those little things. And again, when is it all gonna click for him? I'm thinking it's gonna be fairly soon, but you really don't know. You know, that's something you just kind of, again, have to wait and see.
I know the general offensive philosophy is attack and
Yep.
be aggressive.
Yep.
How much does it factor in, though, that you have maybe the best punter in the country, where it doesn't have to be foot on the gas all the time because you know you can pin the opponent deep if you have to?
It's huge. You know, we kind of joke, it's kind of a joke, but it's true. The best offensive play in football is a punt. It averages more yards than any other play. But to have a punter, I mean, that's a huge weapon. You go back and you look at really good teams, that kicking game's important. And so to have that guy is definitely a weapon.
Do you know much of his backstory?
No.
His dad was basically they call him the Kobe Bryant of Australian rules football.
Okay.
And his grandpa's also a Hall of Famer.
There
So
you go.
maybe he'll petition you to get some time at wideout or
He
tight
may.
end. Good
He may. You
athlete.
never know. We'll take all the good athletes we can get.
Any other questions, Scott?
Is it,
Sorry.
green beans, go. Shimon Mateer, everyone's
Yep.
heard about him for 2 years. Is
Yep.
this the year where he blossoms, or what's the competition like there at tight end?
Well, it's time, and you know, we've told him, you know, you've got all the tools to be a guy that can really contribute to what we're doing offensively. Now he's got to make his mind up to go do it. And I like him especially because he's a guy, you know, he can do multiple things, and he's a versatile tight end. Sometimes, you know, in the tight end world, you have a guy that's more of a wide out, or you have a guy that's more of an offensive lineman blocking in the box type guy. You know, I think Shimon and maybe even Peyton can be those type guys that you keep on the field, that you don't have to substitute a different type tight end in certain situations. You keep them on the field. That way you can kind of keep your foot on the gas and not have to substitute. But Shimon, it's you know, he knows it's time for him to go produce. And again, he's a guy that's had a good summer, good spring for us, and he knows that it's the expectation level for him. And then, but again, him and Peyton, you know, two guys that we've seen a lot out of that can do a lot of different things. And you know, there's some other guys in that room that we got to bring along also.
Any other questions for Coach? Thank you, sir.